All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's Slate time. We are going to get into it. If you know who we are, then great. If you don't, then you don't care. You're just here for some Slate knowledge, so I'm not going to waste your time. But it's 6++. Let's get kicking on and work our way through some changes. So obviously we've got the MFM up in front of us, so we'll be thinking about armies in particular. And I would encourage you, the chat, to shout out things you want to talk about because we can be very flexible for you. If there's an army you want us to go and look at, pipe up. We'll go and have a look. If there's a particular issue you want our take on, shout it out. We will endeavour to provide that take for you. Before we actually dig into the armies ourselves, there have, of course, been a few core rules changes, overall pariah mission changes, and general fact changes and clarifications as well that I think are definitely worth us touching on before we do the armies. Of note, particular note to me, was one that stipulates that now if you are taking a secret mission, you do not score additional primary in turn 5. What do you boys think of that? I think that's a spicy change.
It's fucking bullshit, man.
It's like you're in a Grey Knight talking.
As someone who wins most of my games by a few points, or the games I win are by a few points.
I was trying not to laugh so hard.
And most of those wins, which is by small points, are because of a secret mission. Yeah. I feel like I might start losing these games by a small amount of points if I don't.
It does hurt. It does hurt Grey Knights, doesn't it?
Because even, I wouldn't say I've ever really had like a big 20, 25 point turn outside of the primary missions score. But I can just see it now being that. Yeah, as a singles Grey Knights player, I'm mildly miffed, I would say, and I think actually it genuinely might be a bit more of a nerf to like a Grey Knight army than maybe people were initially thinking.
Yeah, well, and I also don't think they would have had Grey Knights in mind with this change, right? Because I don't think Grey Knights have been particularly egregious in taking advantage of this. It's obviously played into how they play, but I think it's Hypercrypt and Demons probably particularly who it has felt are very hard to stop doing this.
Yeah, Grey Knights are hard to stop. Don't get me wrong. And I'm like, man,
but it's just that their games have still been right on the knife edge, right? So it's like I think it's and they often do have to cede the space. They don't have big monsters or giant monoliths or destroyers to go and wade in the middle and clean it out.
Yeah, it's kind of it's the backbone of it. We'll talk about them later. But yeah, anyway. So for me, but at the same time, also the amount of times I have won a game with it, I'm like, man, if I was my opponent, I'd be pretty pissed off. This is bullshit. You've dominated the board, and I've just been an arsehole and been really annoying. So I can see why I've done it. I think it is a better change. I think you didn't want to end up with a situation where secret missions were so powerful.
Yeah,
you could build in and play with them, and actually some armies just couldn't stop them. It was a quality of life. Some armies obviously had. Could play them far better than other armies, and they're there. You want them to be better than Gambits, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want them to be a really obvious choice a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think that's my feeling on it is that I've played against a few armies in the last couple of months where that is the plan, more or less from the start, right? They're like, I want to go second. I'm going to basically sit off you. I'm going to get a secret mission at the end. And I agree with you that I think the original intention with Gambit, and I think the probable intention with this is if it's that kind of emergency button of, it's all gone wrong. I'm going to try and salvage it X, Y, Z. I actually love what they've done for the game because they completely throw off that incredibly linear scoring that we got very used to in ninth. It was like, you're just in a headlock now. There's no out.
Yeah.
I like that there's an out, like a big out. But I think I've definitely, you're playing against Hypercrypt or Demons or whatever else, and you just feel from the get-go, you're like, I'm obliged to pretend there's a game going on in the middle here because I have to, because I've gone first. And they don't have to at all on a lot of missions to just get all their points back, and they can just sort of pick me apart and then do that at the end. So I feel like what I don't want is for secret missions to disappear. I want people to be winning some games with secret missions. I want teams rounds to be affected by secret missions. I love that. I think it's a really cool part of the game. And I don't feel like it's actually been particularly bad. It has been a bit frustrating. But the reality is, if you hadn't given half the armies in the game uppy, downy, and 3-inch deep strike, maybe it wouldn't be as much of a problem. And that's actually possibly more of a design issue. I think that's a bigger issue and more of a design concern than the secret missions themselves per se. It might be interesting to say. It feels like you just have to make that go make that play for your end game like a turn earlier now to get some more points, right? And so we've got, who have we got in the chat? We've got Diaragorn in the chat. Hi, Ed. Lovely to have you here. Crazy Warboss Gaming. Hello, Ed. Call of Cthulhu. Mark Robertshaw. Simon B. Jerry's painting progress from the Community Challenge. Pickalact is in. I hope you're excited about Eldar Pickalact. Get me those cheap falcons. Let's go. And of course, our lovely Elmo Miniatures in the chat as well. So secret missions, that was one of the big core changes I was struck by. And then other ones of note are sort of for Blood Surge moves. Most things can now only do one of these. So if you get shot, the whole move closer, the Accursed Cultists or Berserkers, whatever else, you can now only make one of these moves in a turn. So there's not this kind of creeping effect of stuff moving towards you. What do you guys make of this?
Got any opinions, Scriver? We did have the Master of Accursed Cultists on yesterday.
So to me, it's like anything. It just feels like a good quality of life for the game. If that's your trick of your army, probably a bit of a feels bad if that's what you were almost relying on, like your unending swarm, that very much it was their kind of way of caging people in. But at the same time, if that's all your trick was, it's a bit one note. I feel like they're trying to encourage people not to just be a one-trick pony, which I think for the health of the game generally is not a bad thing.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where I think good surge units can still jam on objectives and be a problem for people trying to get close to the objectives, right? And that is still very much the case. They are still most dangerous if you have to get danger close to them. So once those units get jammed, they're still effective. I think probably, we'll see there's nerfs to these sorts of units in other places anyway. Some of those units have taken hits. Certainly for me with the hybrid metamorphs, it's like, well, if I get shot twice, I'm probably dead anyway. So it doesn't matter. Like, I wasn't getting 2 surges out of that unit anyway, so it doesn't feel massively consequential there. But I could see some people being a bit frustrated with this one. It's another mechanic where, although it's annoying, there was plenty of play around it. I don't know how essential. I don't know how essential the change was, but it's certainly been made. Sam Dunn says Tom has messed up the internet again. Have I messed up the internet? Oh no, what's happened?
You seem to be all right. This feels like a change that they've kind of preempted, like the resurrection strats. Kind of like that wasn't particularly offensive, but they kind of nipped it in the bud before it had the opportunity to become a real feels bad's problem, perhaps.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's a little bit harsh for some, but it's okay. Pickalax is going to give people flashbacks. Yeah, we'll get to Eldari in a little bit. I'm trying to think if there's any other fundamental changes from the core rules. I think it was mostly some clarifications and tidy up outside of that. If you in the chat have any other big core rules changes that you want to look at. There was one other little one, which was a quality of life change to storm hostile objective. If you can do that turn 1, you now are welcome to do so. So cool. you can keep it. You can get 4 points if they've given you some mandrakes on an objective, or if you've gone second and they pushed at you, you can score it. I think that's quite nice.
It makes sense.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the sort of fundamental secondaries just gradually getting more common sense as they go. I think that's
people learn or realise you play it for a while, you work it out, fix it, easy.
Yeah, exactly.
There was one other kind of change to secondaries. It was marked for death that you have to kill at least one of the leaders leading it.
So they have to kill one of the leaders as well.
Yeah, at least one.
Big fuck you, because everyone always scores that card so well anyway, don't they? So it's making it even harder.
I actually resent people that draw it in turn 5 and can score it. I'm like, I hate you. I absolutely hate you.
Oh, you've only got 2 units left.
I've got to pick my 1 wound Kellamorph over there and go, oh, I hope you don't get him. So those are the headline changes as far as the core rules are concerned. And obviously the real meat and potatoes is in the armies. So look, I've got the old Manufacturum Fawn and whatever. The MFM is here. I don't know what is it actually.
Munition Field Manual.
That's the one.
Munitorum
Field Manual. There you go. I'll learn that for next time. Look at these Sisters changes. These are fun, aren't they?
There's a lot of red there.
So as you'll see, Sisters have eaten points rises on everything that you're seeing out there, and Bringers of Flame lists in particular. So everything with a melter that's a tank, or everything that's a tank, it's got a little rise there. Triumph of St. Catherine goes up to 250 points. That's very spenny. But they have given them a little drop on Battle Sisters and a little drop on Zephyrim there for you. So little sword ladies. And you'll notice that one detachment
on the naughty step
is on the naughty step and has had all its enhancements made more expensive. I am intrigued by Iron Surplus of Saint Istalella being a 10-point. Was that 5 points before? Did they have a 5-point enhancement?
I think it actually gave you 10 points, Tom, and basically gave you 10 victory points as well. It just felt like that was what the army did at that point, right?
Oh dear. So we've got Ed in the chat saying Ed's poor sisters. So yeah, Ed's sisters, which he has played for a grand total of one event, have unfortunately taken a nerf.
Well, his army's gone up, 190 points? So that's the ballpark we're looking at. So, nearly 10% your army's gone up. So yeah, I guess the key question now is whether to send Catherine or not to send Catherine.
Yeah, I think that's a big decision point. Can anyone spot a certain tank that hasn't had a points rise?
Oh no, was it
an Exorcism of Fire? Perhaps we might have.
So the Exorcist, which actually has only just been creeping into builds,
and
is very potent, is still 190. So I think. So we've been chatting about this for ITT. For sisters, I wonder about triple Exorcist, and then more by way of combat and forward pressure and stripping some of the other things out.
So.
But as you say, Chris, the Triumph is also a very obvious candidate for getting rid of it.
I've only played in Sisters a couple of times. I'd never used them, so I don't know how integral they have been or how integral it is to the army being successful. Right? Obviously, you can run this without them. I'm sure it's fine. But I don't know at the top level with the army, do you just fundamentally need the Triumph, or can you play and do well with the rest of the data sheets?
That's a great question.
Those buttons. Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see. Do we know how much she was before?
I think this is quite a substantial rise. I don't know exactly where she was at.
Maybe someone in the chat say what she was before, but it feels like that's going to. I think it's going to be really interesting to see, because obviously by removing that, you are actually then creating more points, and that is kind of.
60 points difference.
It was 190.
190, so it's a 60-point hit.
That
is vicious. But actually, the army was already quick. The army already has very, very good shooting and good dice manipulation mechanics. Are there a bit like Eldar, other ways to get these things and manipulate these things?
Yeah.
I suspect this will have the usual pattern that an army like this has, where people initially think, "Oh, I've got to go and try something else," and they go and try something else, and then someone goes, "Actually, the same thing again."
It's still pretty good,
but just with a slight rearrangement, is still very scary, and I could see that for Bringers of Flame.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think more melee-based sisters, either in Hallowed Martyrs or Penitent Host, is definitely good. And again, all the sisters gun tanks just work in those guys. You don't need to be getting detachment synergies for those to still be very scary. I do think triple Exorcist is still very much a thing, and you can put other horrors in front of that instead of just more tanks if you want. But it's in and around the Triumph. We're going to find out how pivotal the Triumph was, essentially.
And if you look at those unit points, they're kind of on par with other armies' equivalent units now. So
if you mean Eldar, then yeah.
So the Seraphim are now the same points as Jump Pack Intercessors. The Custodes same points as a Gladiator Lancer. So suddenly they're looking a bit more reasonable just off the bat for other detachments as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul Bridge is in the chat. Hello, Paul Bridge. Best Paul Bridge there is. Lovely to have you here. And Brain says, they'll probably have people jumping onto other things and trying other things. Yeah, I mean, I think Sisters will still be very good, and certainly in our ITT plans, we're still feeling like Sisters are something well worth exploring and just sussing out.
Or are we? Oh, who knows?
Oh, yes. If you're watching Ignite, you'll never second guess us. You'll never be able to work out what we're doing. That's why we record at the same time as Art of War, so they can't hear our secrets in case they come to ITT, so we can trounce them.
Ooh.
Okie dokie. So, I mean, that's Sisters. Is the sky falling, Sisters players? Let me know. I think no army likes seeing nerfs like that, but I do think the Paragons may be a bit hard done by, because like the Val Paragons were always a sort of like, they're an incredible unit, but they were already very expensive, and I think they were getting cut out of a lot of lists. Like, I like that unit. I like seeing Val doing a thing, so that's a bit sad. Zephyrim in Army of Faith are quite good, so that might be one direction people would go as well. Next up, we got Custodes. Look at this. Look at this awesome.
Dreadnought meta incoming. Guys.
There's not a lot to say here. Like they've buffed a few of the dreadnoughts.
Versus
What are
Praetors.
versus Praetors? Is that the bikers?
They're the bikes,
Yeah.
Tom.
Okay. I mean, they still look pretty expensive.
Yeah. 70 points each for a unit that has to go round terrain. Cool.
Yeah, that's
some fun rules, the versus Praetors. I remember Ed always used to talk about it, but
if they were 50 points each, they'd be great.
Yeah,
I've got 15, mate. So bring it back.
It's actually for an army like Custodes who have sort of lost the glamour and haven't been seeing a lot of love. This is very light touch, isn't it?
Yeah, I would have expected a little bit more of a tweak to the fundamental units to see if they can bring them up slightly. There's just no one is going to suddenly start taking dreadnoughts. This is essentially a completely pointless change.
Yeah, I used to love Custodes this with dreadnoughts, didn't they?
Yeah, I've got loads of them. They're generally some of the Achilles dreadnought is like my favorite model in the entirety of 40k. Pretty much, it's such a beautiful model. But these, in no shape or form do these points changes affect Custodian lists.
No. So that's my point of confusion. I've not. So you're always paying attention to anecdotally who's enjoying their armies and who isn't, and people, Custodes players are not enjoying their army.
They've pivoted.
So I'm a little surprised that they have had no love whatsoever, really. But I look forward to being surprised by Virtus Praetor spam in about 2 weeks' time.
No, it's not happening.
So then we have the Adeptus Mechanicus. So if you have a look at this, we've got
this is interesting.
Some little nudges on Electro Priests, Sulphur Hounds, the other Electro Priests. Stiltman got cheaper, hell yeah. Dune Crawler got cheaper. Some of the characters got cheaper. And then you've got some rises on the Taraxi, which have been seeing a lot of use. Rises on the Chickens, not seeing as much use. And rises on the Vanguard, who have been pretty staple in all the Admech lists as a sort of primary denial piece, right? Chris is our resident Admech player. What do you think?
Absolutely expert. I think this just feels like an internal balance attempt. Rather than something that changes the army realistically. You obviously the hunter cohort and spamming Vanguard and Rangers and all that sort of thing is obviously been quite a way of playing them. Ballistari, they're just fundamentally good in terms of they're quite annoyingly tough. They cover a big base, and in that really boring Admech way of I'm not really going to kill you, but I'm going to send wave of stuff into and primary denial and just block space. And I'm going to have loads of things. This obviously tips it over slightly, but I don't think all of a sudden people are like, oh wow, full right Electro Priests are now only 140 points. Let's take 30 of them. I don't think that's really that's it. It's just, as I said, this just feels a bit more of an internal balance tweak, just to try and make things equally viable, I guess. But it's not going to shift Admech up or down as an actual as an army in and around the meta. I don't think.
For sure. The little baby squads of Sulphur Hounds look to me perhaps the most exciting of the drops, like the little 3-man.
55 for some flame
55 for some little flame doggies as harassers or skirmishers, blockers, whatever. Doesn't feel terrible.
Yep.
I've got some comments about my internet. Just how bad is my internet, guys?
Your internet's fine.
It's fine.
Because yesterday I was mocking you too.
I see. That's good to know. So, so I have had. I got internet this afternoon. They brought us a little emergency box. Someone was fixing someone else's internet opposite our house. He switched ours off. We went outside and got, have you switched our internet off? He went, no. And then he got in his van and drove away.
Oh, no.
I have definitely not done that.
Yeah, that is 100% not what I've done. Just because it happened when I arrived and when I did the thing that I did. Anyway, all good. We're up and running now. Sam Dennis is a points increase on Vanguard, an attempt to make the armor cheaper and thus more accessible. Admech has never been about making anything cheap or accessible.
Yeah, because points per pound, Iron Striders are now
wild.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't feel like this, as you say, Chris, this doesn't change Admech, does it? Like they're still quite a niche but quite potent force in a particular way.
In the right hands, as in Johnny Simmons, and then they're good.
Our very own Jack Doddy is going to see that the robots have stayed the same, and that's not good enough, is it? That's the main.
Yeah, poor Dave is sad.
Main concern. So here we have the Adeptus Titanicus point. So you'll see that the Reaver Titan remains at 2,200.
That's a relief.
The
I was
Warbringer
worried about
Nemesis
that
Titan
200
still at
point
2,600. The Warhound still at 1,100. So Zach can still run it at Warhammer Fest. And the Warlord Titan at 3,500. See, this is the kind of in-depth analysis you just don't get with Art of War. I bet they don't even touch on these.
I bet they don't look at this.
I bet they won't even go near that. They couldn't handle it. Couldn't
That
handle it.
Warhound,
Right, okay.
that Warhound still will get like 5th place in the LGT narrative. It's going to be great.
Amazing. We're going to move into Eldar now. Please do hit like and subscribe on the video, guys. Leave us a little comment. That all helps to drive that sweet algorithm. And this is, after all, well, not for me because I was on the show, but this is second working night for these boys this week. So, Index Eldari.
Ooh.
Boom.
Right. You got
Shining
drops.
Spears, baby. Here we go.
Drops on the Corsairs. Drops on Shining
Nice.
Spears.
Yeah.
Drops on the Falcon. Drops on the Fire Prism creeping back down. Drops on the Wraith Knight creeping back down. We've got the first of a thing that is worth commenting on, which is this distinction between 5 and 10s in units.
Yeah.
Different points cost. So you'll see there the Wraith Guard and the Wraith Blades in 5s have got a bit cheaper, but they stayed just as expensive for a big brick of 10.
Yeah.
Then you've got the Wave Serpent going down and the Warlocks of different stripes going down. What do you think of this?
Have you ever seen the battlefield? The Warlock Enclave?
No.
Like,
There was a time in 8th, wasn't there, where
it was a
the Conclave was a thing.
Because when I used to build out on this, and I'd be like, "Oh, I've got this spare, whatever it was, 60 points. Like, what can I fit? Oh, I could take a Warlock Conclave," and you're just like, "No, fundamentally, no, I'm not going to take." So yeah, those poor guys, they just don't add anything, do they?
They're still paying for the 6th edition, 7th edition.
Yeah,
spam,
there was a
probably
thing,
had.
wasn't it, where you
Yeah.
take those things.
So the exciting units as far as the points here, you'd have to say it's realistically probably the hulls and the Corsairs, right?
Yeah.
Like Shining Spears are still just so unwieldy and big, and they die twisted.
Yeah, they just suffer from the fact that 10th edition hates Shining Spears.
Mounted.
Yeah.
What's mounted? What's mounted even mean?
They're one of the first units I kit bashed so I could have a brick of 9 in 8th edition. I loved them. They could just blend Marines. And they're like AP2 now. It's embarrassing.
there was a
It's
time
genuinely
where-
embarrassing.
My issue is that none of these make me excited to go back and try Eldar again. There's nothing here where I'm like, oh, cool. Like, now I can try out X, Y, Z. I just don't think. I mean, I guess people will try 5s of Wraith Blades and Wraith Guard just to see if that's a thing. Maybe in a Wave Serpent because that's gone down as well. I mean, hey, Shining Spears, like, at the end of the day, I just don't think they've got the output and they're so unwieldy. Like, if you're looking to take bikers, you're probably heading more down the line of the either Shroud Runners for the big scout and move, and then obviously the shooty ones,
which are good. The old
good in taking.
what are they actually even called?
Yeah, I know. I'm literally having a mind blank right now.
I'm having a complete mind blank, and I'm looking, and because I don't know what it is, I can't see. Wind Riders, there we go. Beautiful Wind Riders.
Eldar jet bikes.
Wind Riders are pretty good. They stayed just the same.
But other than that,
the good news for Eldar is, look, you've been forgiven. This is what forgiveness looks like. They're starting to gently give you nice things again.
What about the poor Harlequins? Harlequins. Could have given Harlequins something.
You can put a Wraith Knight in reserves
now. Yeah, that is the important thing here, guys. So we are now looking at the Strat Reserve. Rapid Ingress Wraith Knight meta.
Get back on that Prince Ariel Wraith Knight 1-2 and give him the old, it's in the open, now it's in reserves. Yeah!
Ciao!
Got you. Just where I want. And then get dramatically tabled, which is one of Eldar's real specialties at the moment. I think the Falcon and the Wave Serpent and the Fire Prism, there's something going on there into certain armies. I think Fire Prism's used to outshoot most things. They're a bit cheaper again. But it's fitting it all on a board with the hulls. That's the issue, isn't it? It's hard to actually get Wave Serpents and Falcons and Fire Prisms into a game of UKTC terrain, particularly.
Yeah, because you've got to, if you're trying to make the most of the Fire Prism rule, you've got to be able to see each other, right? So, and the way the UKTC terrain works now, it's quite hard to be sneaky with your shooting, whilst also seeing your other 2 Fire Prisms. So,
Picklex says, I don't think Fire Prisms get back on the table, ran them at old cost, but they just aren't great on UKTC. Yeah, I think for the UK, I think that's right. I think they're much better on like WTC and GW where they can pick more snide angles, I think is fair. But the Wave Serpent isn't bad at all. and the Falcon isn't bad at all. Those are both tanks who shoot at near 100% efficiency with their rerolls, right? Which is pretty crazy. Like they're very good. They've the transport capacity and a good anti-tank gun is just solid.
Yeah.
But we will see. It's not inspiring, but it's a step in the right direction for the Eldar. We got a question, Votann related. I'm just going to field it now. Comment on whether it's worth taking a 10-man Hearthguard brick now. I've kind of been of the opinion that it's not for a while, and the main reason is Vect Auras. The Hearthguard brick is like 400 points. It needs stratagems to work in terms of fallback, shoot and charge, void armor, double sustained, extra AP in combat. As soon as you play an army with a Vector, that big brick isn't going to function, and its risk of getting isolated and picked off without being able to even interrupt or even defend itself is very high. So I prefer more go wide Votann. And if you are having a melee brick, have 10 Berserks, because if they do that to you, you go, that's really clever, and then half of them fight anyway and kill the thing that did it to them, so that's fine. So I think I prefer Berserks for combat trading over Hearthguard right now.
Yeah,
but the fives in land forts are okay.
Having played into a 10 recently, and it was just like it. As long as you can manage the space it arrives in, so
you really can't you? Let's face it.
Like I think they're a bully unit, maybe at the lower to mid tables.
Yeah,
where they're like, I'm now in this really, really dangerous position. Boom, you're dead. Boom, I've moved here. Blah blah blah. But against someone with lots of stuff, or someone who's really canny with their screening, you just end up shoving them in a place, and then your opponent just runs away and goes, "Cool, you enjoy that area of the board." So I think that's
they had their heyday exactly when I was running them at LGT, which was when there were a lot of armies whose plan was, here's my tough thing, and the Hearthguard would go great and drop down, and 20 warriors dead, a cursed cult is dead.
It was great into Necrons and that sort of stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah. But that era of stat checky, slow moving blobs has gone really. So I don't think they're as useful now in that role.
I agree.
So if you take him run a 5 in a land fort with an Iron Here champ and go and whack things in the middle. Okay, right. So that's the Eldar. All the Forge World stays the same and still exists.
For now.
Astra Militarum. Bullgrin. So the Bullgrin are expensive now. They cost more. The tank commander is expensive now. He costs more. He also gained platoon. Yes, so he gained platoon, so he can benefit from orders. Scout Sentinels, which David Gaylard was using at LGT, got cheaper. And that's a unit you can jam quite aggressively early on. You can also bring it back via reinforcements. It's a good little unit. Down here, the Field Ordnance Battery, which is an artillery piece you never see, got cheaper. Heavy Weapons Squad, which you do sometimes see, got cheaper. And then Ogrins. Now, Ogrins, I think they really want to shift this Bullgrin/Ogrin kit, because they've taken the Bullgrin up and they've gone, we'll make the Ogrin almost half the price. I don't know if Ogrins are good, guys, but that's very cheap.
He's currently trying 18 of them and losing.
Yeah.
So,
But is that pilot or less?
I mean, that's probably a skill issue to be fair.
Certainly, when Hardy came to me in the chat and said, I can just take Ogrin instead, I was like, I will run right through Ogrin very happily if that's what you want to do. And they've actually got some half-decent little guns.
I've literally no idea what they do.
They've got basically a bunch of Strength 5, AP 1, Damage 2 guns hitting on force, but it's like a few shots each. So obviously that's not terrible, and they get +1 AP if they're in close range. So that's a Marine killing gun. It's not awful. And then they are still 3 wounds, 6 up, feel no pain. So it's just stodgy sort of bit shooting. I don't think they're awful. I don't know. I don't know whether that's.
So they're 120, and how many are 6 Bullgrin?
6 Bullgrin is now 220. Yeah. So they've certainly made you think about it, haven't they?
That is quite the change.
I definitely like the squad of 3 Scout Sentinels with a bit of a points drop as a jam piece that you bring back. I think that's really nice. And then
for certain armies as
we're
well.
not really in an artillery meta, so it's going to be very interesting for Guard, isn't it? What do we think is going to happen?
People are going to take 30 Aquilons.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
If they can buy them or print them.
And you'll see that the Aquilons have indeed come out at 90 points per
90 points for that is... I mean, I haven't played into it. I'm lack of opinion here, but at the same time, everyone who has said what utter bullshit it is. So therefore, fuck them.
Yeah, I think Guard have got a nice little boost with the Aquilons. Bullgrin's still very annoying. But probably you don't take as many now, maybe 2 squads rather than 3.
Yeah. Which is the goal,
And
right?
ultimately, the guard have got tons of tools and options and all sorts going on in here. So I think they'll be fine, but they'll have to adapt. Every time we've called guard finish, they've come back again better, right? So
yeah,
cool.
the planet broke before the guard did.
Yeah. Right, not a ton to say on Black Templars.
Yeah, suckers.
Look at this. They've quite deliberately priced up the bigger squads.
Yep.
And said, nope, you want to run spam. It's not happening.
No.
Grimoldus gets a nerf. Hellbrett gets a nerf. Marshall and Castling gets cheaper. It's much of a muchness. The Templar Horde takes a big hit.
I wonder how many points it went up.
I'd be curious. I'm sure there's someone around who knows that we could
Yeah,
probably
maybe. I don't know if Ed's still in the chat, but if you could look at his list and tell us how much his...
I think it's somewhere between 100 and 200 from what I'm eyeballing.
Because the... So what, the big bricks have gone up. How many points? 40?
I think so.
And there were
six
three of them.
200.
So just on the Crusaders, Ed's list goes up like 200 points.
Which is mad when you think about it.
That's one brick less, isn't it? So you've lost a brick.
One of the niche terrors of the 40kc, the Templar Horde takes a real whack. I'm sure Ed's already working out how many heavy intercessors he can put in instead, so he'll be okay.
The answer is 60.
He is truly committed to the bit, so he'll be okay.
They have gotten cheaper, Tom, to be fair.
Yeah. I think this is fine. It's not actually unless you see in singles a ton anyway. And mixed arms Flex Templar looks just as good as ever, which is solid. Aered says, I think Votann came out very well. Liz hasn't budged a single point. Oh, yeah, it's not exciting for Votann, as we'll get to, but any army that stands still, as we saw with a bunch of armies last time, if you stand still, you're winning, right? As long as you're not getting negative attention, you end up stronger. And the game's already so balanced that if you get stronger, you really do feel it. Okie dokie. Blood Angels, here we go. We have the detachment points for Blood Angels. Now, a certain Mr. Scrivens has already covered this in depth on our YouTube. So if you want to hear about Blood Angels and Dark Angels, where do they go, John?
They go to the 6++ channel. There is a Inner Circle video that covers all of the Dark Angels changes, just to the points. And same with Blood Angels, but it's they're nice little slappy videos. And I've just kind of explained my thinking behind it as well. So.
Cool. Wonderful. Do you want to give us a TLDR?
Right, so Bold Predator gained assault on its guns by default, so that's gone up because I think it was really quite undercosted. Mm-hmm. The Captain gains stuff, so they've put it back up a little bit because it's gained extra abilities, which makes sense.
He's really killy, isn't he, if you told him up right?
The Death Company guys felt a little bit expensive, apart from the Jump Pack guys, which, yes, they've lost a lot of their really crazy weapons, but they still gained things like an Eviscerator. So when you compare them to a normal Jump Pack sort of Marine, they are slightly better, so they've put their points up a little bit. And Lamarty's, they've dunked him up a little bit as well, but I think that's relatively fair because...
Yeah, is he the one you go for now?
He was in that weird bit where he was being really used.
Yeah.
And when I was looking at lists using the Codex points, I was debating not using him and using
Astaroth's kind of looking at me
instead, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. I worry for Lamarty's. I like the reverse they've gone for, where the 5s of DC are more expensive than the 10s.
Yes.
So if you want to play that mini missile trading Blood Angels that we've seen, you pay a bit of a premium for it. I think that's quite sensible.
Yeah. And Sam makes a valid point in the chat. He says, are they 40 points better than normal jump packs? I don't think so, but I feel like they've done with Vanguard Veterans, they've moved everything that's kind of similar up to reflect that the baseline guys should be this points and everyone else should be higher. Whether it's right, I don't know. Maybe they should just create the rules instead. But whatever. and then Sangard.
Sangard, right? Yeah. What do you reckon?
I'm not sure. I feel like these might be a little cheap, but they're around. They fill in the ballpark. I think if we start seeing 3 units of 6, then we know they're too cheap.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
I want them in Blood Angels lists.
Yes.
I think that this probably makes sure that happens. But it's like they are flying Terminators that blend, right? So it's like it's quite scary. So you got to get this right in with the reach that the detachments have with the advanced charge. Yes. I'm a little bit afraid. I'll be honest. I hadn't realised that the Archangel's Shard was still an enhancement. I'm glad that's made it through from 9th edition. I always enjoy that one.
And it got cheaper. It got cheaper.
Yeah, they've nudged around with the enhancements a bit.
Yeah. Some of the things that looked like they were going to be auto takes, like the Gleaming Pinions, they've nudged up a little bit, which they felt way too cheap. So, and
they've gone 10 points for sustain 3 on a re-rolling hits captain. It's fine, and we'll leave that as it is.
It's fine, Tom. It's fine. I think in the grand scheme of things, these guys I think are going to shake out, but I can see them being a bit of a trouble. But
I've got no fix on how strong Blood Angels are. I really can't work it out from looking at it.
I can see like people wanting at least to try Angelic Host. Whether that's successful, it is an uppy downy detachment, but uppy downy with melee rather than just a bit of shooting. Let's see, I guess.
Or you take 18 Inceptors.
Or suppressors. Suppressors may be the secret source for that.
Oh, yeah, suppressors.
Can you buy those individually?
No. 75 points, but you can't buy them in anything less than an 80
If you weren't around for Shadow Spear or whatever it is, it's too late. It's over for you.
They do it as a task force. You have to buy it as a full set still.
The Death Company Dreadnought is 180 points if you want to blood surge into a unit and then be shot anyway because you're a vehicle. So do go and take them up on that. That's awesome, isn't it? Right, Chaos Demons. So Franco will love this because this is really a really cool set of changes, actually pretty serious. So Laxi Hellbane went down to costing you about as much as my first house did. Beasts of Nurgle is 65. They're really annoying, Beasts of Nurgle. I quite like triple solo Beasts of Nurgle. I think they're very obnoxious in Demons list. For their points, they can just become a runaway problem in any part of the board at any given moment. I would definitely have them in there. And then the Renmaster went up. And I've played against Renmaster lists, and I think the thing that always struck me was it wasn't really him that was the problem. It was the millions of Blood Crushers smashing me with lots of points. Lots of mortals, lots of damage. But I don't know. This is very light touch for Demons again. This isn't going to inspire anyone, is it?
Yeah.
Doesn't make it worse, though. So, I mean, if they're standing still,
Yeah, the big hit to them is the Secret Missions thing, because they were one of the armies that exploits that very reliably. And now going to have to work for that primary a little bit more. But, I mean, Demons still in a great spot in general, just a bit of a skew with an interesting angle on how they play that, if you love it, you love it. If you don't, you don't. Right, Chaos Knights, look at this. Just lots of drops. Abominant goes down, Desecrator goes down, Despoiler goes down, even the Brigand goes back down, having to copying a rise. Huntsman and Stalker, which you never see, also go down.
I guess with Chaos Knights, or Knights in general, the fundamental thing is, does it change enough for you to get in an extra model?
Yeah.
And if it does, then winning. And if it doesn't, then... I mean, because their builds are so limited anyway, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I can't have the stuff. I guess maybe you can try and get in a big night now. I don't know.
Maybe. People tried it last time because the Despoilers and Desecrators have been getting drops the whole time. People have tried it and it's not been inspiring. I guess the biggest thing is you can probably get some Demon allies in, right? That's the main thing. Ashley Brown's in the chat reminded me that Interrupt exists.
I read that, I was like, what? Oh, yeah.
It's so good. I love him. Thank you, Ashley. Appreciate you. And I've never forgotten an Interrupt since. I don't think I'll ever do that 3-day again. I was so fried. So I mean, Chaos Knights are just in a sort of kind of meh place, really, at the moment, waiting for something exciting rules-wise to happen for them.
Yeah.
This gets you a few more War Dogs on the pitch, but I don't know. They're not in a glamorous place right now, are they, Chaos Knights?
No, I think they're just, as you say, they kind of need a book to fundamentally change how they play.
Yeah.
Rather than minor points tweaks that, as I said, I don't think, because it's not like they have Imperial agents to go, we can now get this cool assassin in our list or whatever.
Exactly.
So I don't see how it could really have made that much difference. But I am saying this with literally zero knowledge of how much those points have changed. So
yeah, for sure. It's nudges. I think maybe the Abominate got quite a big drop, but it's also the most useless of the 3 big knights.
It is pretty awful.
Yeah. Oops. I say that because I built one and played it at an event. Right, Chaos Space Marines. This is a fun one. This is another faction that have been forgiven in the main.
Yeah.
So the headline, the Accursed Cultists eat a nerf 195 for the big squad. So if you want to do cute little scout moving baby squads, you can. And the Dark Commune has also taken a points rise as well. So that's going to set you back, 275 for a Dark Commune with the Curse. That's a lot of points for a brick of them. So those lists take a little bit of a whack. I suspect they're probably still great in that sort of tar pity kind
They
of
have
way.
a role, right? And I don't think
They do a thing. It's still a skew.
Role.
Either you're ready for it or you're not.
And because of all the other changes, it's probably coming out in a wash. So
Yeah.
it doesn't actually matter.
So not disastrous for them. But then lots of buffs on what I would describe as basically our mate Adam's list from the weekend. So he's got Chaos Terminators got cheaper, Legionaries and Tens got cheaper, Obliterators got cheaper, Possessed got cheaper, the Sorcerer and Terminator Armor got cheaper. So his whole CSM list has gone right down. So this is lots of cool thematic CSM units that actually haven't seen as much play in lists as they perhaps should have done. Warp Talons, they've done the same thing. So the 5-mans are cheap, but the 10-man brick is not. I think that was a nice touch. I'd definitely consider the little 5-mans as anti-skirmishers again at 125, but they are still expensive.
Yeah, it's quite a lot, isn't it? Well,
Yeah.
And Abaddon's gone down to just below a Primox cost now as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think he does outkill the other ones, right?
Yeah.
I think if he connects into the Gilliman or the other guy,
Lion.
Sorry, yeah. I'm pretty sure he does kill them. Oh, he's getting them out the shelf. Here we go.
Doesn't the Lion fight first, though?
Yeah, fight first.
He does.
And
he does actually.
What Invon has Abaddon got?
4 up, mate. Maybe he dies.
Yeah,
we should do this one day. We should make all the Primarchs fight and video it.
Well,
We should do a video, yeah.
Havoc's got cheaper, so that's cool. The Predator no one takes got cheaper. The Lord Discordant got cheaper.
Is it still worth it?
The only really genuinely consequential ones here, I think, are Possessed, Obliterators, and Abaddon. I think those are all, maybe the Warp Talons, those are all quite interesting. I think there are definitely decent CSM lists that lean on those. We just saw Obliterators creeping in, played in Veterans of the Long War, but you can do them in Renegade Raiders, running up with Assault alongside Abaddon. That's cheaper now. And I think CSM are quite enjoying being able to dig out a good chunk of the opponent's army first before they do all the fighting, because they're not winning straight shootouts with armies like they were a little while ago now. Like they get picked up by Sisters, they get picked up by some of the other shootier armies. So I think this probably helps CSM. And if there is going to be something horrible coming out of this, it's going to involve Obliterators and Possessed. I'll tell you that.
30 Possessed.
30 Possessed is a lot of chunk.
6 Obliterators and Abaddon.
Yeah, that's a legit list. That is scary and punchy. I think.
Can you stop reading Lee's WhatsApp chats to you?
Yeah.
This is important for ITT.
And then 2 Vindicators and...
What's Vashdor doing in the list?
Vashdor out of nowhere.
Yeah, Vashdor had a great time out at your narrative event, Scoo. That's the main thing. So I think
I don't think his points drop won't fix that.
I think he's been adjusted so he does synergize with his own detachment now. So that's something.
Oh my god, I forgot about that. That's great.
Yeah, CSM, they're being very careful with all the things that were a problem, and they're just trying to see if they can tempt you into. And the only problem unit that of days gone by is the Obliterators. Yeah, I do think that the Terminator brick with the Sorcerer and Terminator armor is a legitimately scary unit. So maybe some people will try that out.
Did we have previous editions where Obliterators could be in more than 2s as well?
Yeah, they used to.
So it being capped at the 2 probably helps as well.
It does. Mitigates it. So that's Chaos Space Marines.
Now the other Chaos Space Marines. The other Chaos Space Marines.
Take us through it.
Right, so Azrael's gone up. He was in probably 90% of armies. Even if you're playing in a pickup game of 1,000 points, you'd probably take him because you get the free CP. So he's got 10 points. It's just a bit of an annoyance. Deathwing Knights have gone up 15 points. That is to push them so that people might not take 3 units. I think people are just pushing other stuff out at the cost of their list probably being worse now. They'll kill stuff and survive longer, but they might not score as well. Unspeakable Vengeance has gone down. I don't imagine people will still take it because the gun profile is guff. The line has gone down 15 points.
That's spicy, isn't it?
Him and his brother are now 285 points each, which is really quite cool. I think where you save those 15 points, you've probably been cost them in your Deathwing Knights, so it comes out a bit in the wash. The Ravenwing Command Squad, you see it occasionally. It's quite cute with the Black Knights, but not enough to justify probably putting into normal lists. And same with Samael. He's gone down to the same points as Azrael. But again, he's a guy on a mounted vehicle with an okay plasma cannon that doesn't really give you much of a buff outside of the unit he's attached to. So it's like, cool, thanks guys. And by the way, he's made of resin, so it's just not so helpful.
Yeah.
So
And not to give things away, but they went to task on the whole Dark Angels apparatus, right? All the Codex compliant stuff that Lennon uses in his build all got slapped pretty hard.
So it's about 195 points on the post WCC kind of list where they lost the Voidsman. It's about 195 points.
Yeah,
So-
and certainly speaking from the position of the UK, I had not really seen that build do enough to warrant being hit that hard. I know it was great on WTC or GW, but I don't think Dark Angels would put up trees in UKTC to deserve that.
But we've got to remember how much of the actual meta is actually the UK. And
Oh, yeah, for sure.
it's probably not even half. Might
That's
not even
very,
be
very
10%.
balanced and
you know what I mean?
empathetic of you, John. No, yeah.
And I feel like, yes, it's a shame with Deathwing Knights that they're going up a little bit, but you adapt. Like, my list went up 95 points. That means I was already on the way to redemption there. So.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see. I mean, Deathwing Knights are still great.
Yeah, they'll still take at least 2 units, I think.
Yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see how they adapt. But the Lion is getting there, isn't he? It's a matter of time until
all the comments
push him
I
over
saw,
into everyone wants him.
Last time round, people went, "Oh, I might try him." People of this time round said in the comments immediately, "Oh, I'm gonna try him because I'm gonna save the points and taking out the third unit." So I think now people are exploring it, and it might be timed with a certain Christmas box that features him and some Deathwing Knights and some Inner Circle companions. So
Nice.
not I'm cynical, but maybe.
Time to become a Dark Angels, mate. Sorry.
Why not both?
Why not both? Yeah, you can be John. Go live that Space Marine dream. You just love Space Marines that much. Right, next up we've got Death Guard. Right, some quite fun changes for Death Guard. The Putrefier got cheaper. Death Shroud going down to 110 and 220. Death Shroud is spicy. That's
They're a
quite cheap.
threat.
That's good. They're nasty. And then Mortarion going down to 300. Mortarion is big and scary and a force multiplier. It's those. I mean, I'd say if you're building a Death Guard list around Morty, then 2 of the units you are almost always taking are much cheaper. So I think that's good. I think Morty's, and I think it's the Death Shroud especially are just very, very good already in the game. And for combat armies especially, Death Shroud and Typhus are really, really oppressive to deal with because they can just absorb horrifying amounts of pressure. So I think as far as Death Guard doing what they do, they've got a bit better at it. And I think they'll be happy in that sense. I don't think these are points changes that scream Death Guard are suddenly going to be able to muscle through things they weren't already muscling through. Unless there's some kind of Mortarion and gun line build, which I don't think a Death Guard player would massively love to play anyway. Maybe there's something there.
Like 3 play burst crawlers, Tom.
And 3 Predator Destructors.
Yeah, we've never seen that, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, it'd be an interesting one for Death Guard. They're always out there doing their thing. I played against them at the weekend and lost. They were definitely tough.
Yeah. And that was some Death Shroud term.
They probably benefit from some of the other top armies going away as well, or taking nerfs. I think that definitely does help them. There's definitely some Death Guard excitement in the chat. Look at this. Oh yeah, Typhus did have his snipe blown ups with mortal wounds taken away, but everyone else had taken.
Good.
Yeah.
Everyone else had theirs taken
There
away.
should be no
Typhus
hands
is
that
so
have
good
lots.
this edition. I'm actually a bit sad I've not played him more because he's baller. He's very cool.
No. We know how I feel about Typhon.
Yeah, Brigands going down in CK definitely do also help Death Guard because they like to suit them too. It's definitely worth noting.
That's a good point.
Right, wonderful. Before we roll on, just to say a massive thank you to everyone for listening in. I hope you're enjoying our Dataslate review. Obviously, this is where you get the real stuff. None of that amateur dramatics you can get from some of the other channels. You know, this is where the real big brain players are at. So thanks for tuning in. Do please hit like and subscribe. We really appreciate your support. Remember, you can sign up and support us for a YouTube member as well. If you want to chuck us a super chat and say thanks for the extra work, we'd massively appreciate it. Obviously, we're working on all sorts of little reviews and some members-only content as well to keep you all really updated on these big changes in the game. And yeah, that's all. That's a bit of self-promotion for you. We'll move it on.
Buy a ticket to our tournament, guys.
Oh yeah, come to our tournament,
yeah.
March 15th/16th. There's all the details on our
Just go on
Facebook
the
and in the
ticket
Discord. You want to come play WTC terrain in Barnsley? Get involved. Oh,
Ridge,
fuck.
fight
This, okay, so here's Drukhari.
A lot of red.
It was all fun and games saying they're S tier to wind people up until this happens. So Archon up 10, Beastmaster up 15, Caught the Archon up 10, Drazar up 10. I've not even used Drazar in 10th edition. He's gone up. Lilith up 10, Mandrake's up 5, Reaver's up 5, Incubi up 10 as well. It's pretty painful.
How much does a list go up?
Probably about between 75 and 100, depending on the exact build. There's not really a Sky Splinter list that doesn't lose a unit and take quite a big hit. Oh, Hellions got cheaper though, guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
but
they're great,
Hellion
aren't they?
Dream. Here we go.
Thank you,
beautiful.
Call of Cthulhu, for the £20 super chat. You legend.
Oh, Call of Cthulhu, that is really kind of you. You absolute star.
God.
That is really, really appreciated. That really makes the additional industry on a busy day. I said, for context, guys, Slate coming. Internet has gone. I didn't have internet this morning when all the noise was being made. I only got internet installed in my house this afternoon. I'm like, this is not a good day to not have any internet. So it's been a stressful day to get this all drawn together. But the boys have knocked it out of the park. Obviously, John's knocked it out of the park, getting some videos done already. We've got more to come as well.
Who needs a lunch break, mate?
The super chat support really, really helps us. We're on track. We're trying to have a record month this month to keep things moving. So that really, really helps us. Thank you, Call of Cthulhu. We appreciate you. So yeah, look, this is tough for Sky Splinter Drukhari. Real Space Raiders Drukhari is not exciting, but it is better in the overall meta in some ways at the moment with Talos and Grotesques. And that build is completely untouched by this, really. Doesn't really take much by way of hits. Void Raven Bombers are still good if you like that. They're good at one thing in particular, which is shredding Marines. But I think the way I particularly like to play Drukhari, which is glorious, get out of boats and stab everyone, definitely takes a hit here. And I think Drukhari were already in a meta place where it's like they were good, they were definitely strong, and the data supports that. But they definitely have plenty of predators as well. And this obviously brings them down. I think relative to the other sort of stronger armies in the game, though, this isn't as bad.
Because they were on the cusp, weren't they? They weren't quite a troublemaker, but they were there. They were edging on the edge.
Oh yeah, well, and their stats were definitely. I say most top players in the game didn't really seem to understand it and weren't buying.
Oh gotcha.
And I'd definitely say that from playing them, they did have a ceiling in the UK in particular. There definitely was a ceiling there. But they were strong and they were obviously bossing a lot of games. So it's a tough one for Drukhari. I think it's going to be a case of regrouping a little bit. But I think they'll still bully plenty of games and still very, very good at killing Space Marines, which is their favourite thing to do. So.
How's your Archon WhatsApp group chat handled it, Tom?
There's been a lot of chat in there today about Corsairs and a lot of chat about.
I know who that is. There's a Corsair
an
main
industrial quantity of copium is being smoked in there, is what I would say. And definitely some thoughts on which armies deserve nerfs and which ones didn't. But I know they've flown too close to the sun this time. The old Drukhari, they've had a good 6 months actually, all told, with getting the new detachment.
Yeah,
being brought back to life
up through the field, haven't they?
Exactly that. So I'm sure they'll continue to be in and around it and be a threat. The Beastmaster nerf is rough. The Court of the Archon nerf is also rough. That was a sort of unit where you only ever had one most of the time. So that taking combined nerfs on the Archon and the Court is a bit sad.
And your average new player can't buy the models for those either, which is just a double loss, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Drukhari 2 waiting on a bit of love. Jerry's Painting Progress asked, did Scourge say the same? Yes, they did. But Scourge have already had 2, I think, points rises.
Yeah.
In line because of Ynnari, basically. It's like that. There's a lot of Drukhari units in here which have already had multiple rises, mostly because of Ynnari in the past. So the whole range is feeling a little bit expensive, particularly in and around the elite damage now. So we'll have to see how it gets on. No points rise on Yuri and Rakath, though, and he's a lot of fun. So go try him if you haven't already and you play Drukhari. He's a baller. Genestealer Cults, this is fun. This is going to cheer me right up.
Oh, God.
So drops on GSC. Aberrants go down 15. That's awesome.
No.
Then all the little infantry idiots go down 5 each. So the Hand Flamer Akos go down. Standard Hand Flamers go down. Neophytes, wherever the hell they are, went down.
Yeah.
Bunch of the characters. Primarchs. Patriarch. Yeah, you can do some fun things with the Patriarch right now. Jackal Alphas. Benefictus. Atalan Jackals. Icon Ward. Lots of little cuts. and Serpentine Tactics, an enhancement I highly encourage you not to bother with, also went down. So in sum, this is good for GSC, because GSC have had this. This always happens with GSC, right? The book comes out and everyone goes, and it sort of gets left alone for a while, and it's sort of a bit neglected, and it doesn't really function. And then a couple of people start getting their heads around it and making it work, and it starts coming to life. And it's been on that journey over like the last month or so. And I think playing it, I would have to say, I've played a lot of games of GSC over the last month, and I've felt like the whole time like this is as easily as good as Drukhari is. Like, it's got all sorts of play, it's got all sorts of potential, and it does something that other armies don't do, which is it just breaks the rules of trading because it comes back. So it's strong, and I think this definitely jacks them up a level.
You get an extra unit now, right?
You essentially get an extra unit, which obviously, as I was chatting with, I've recorded a little chat with Danny Porter going over this in more depth, because obviously Danny's a wonderful GSC player. But yeah, a GSC unit is a big deal. An extra one, because it can essentially be getting an extra 3
twice.
units. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's so gaining a unit in that kind of saturation and regeneration type army is a big deal. And because they've gone for all of the infantry and all the core characters and made them cheaper, every detachment benefits from these buffs. Every single one is better. So I think you'll actually start to see the book kind of blossom. That was very much the conclusion me and Danny came from it too, is you will see Biosanctic lists, you will see Outlander Claw lists, you will see Host of Ascension lists. I think they work better with the drops on the Benefactus and the Neophytes and the Primus. And you will see Xenocreed lists as well. So I think this book's going to have a few months where, whether or not it's top of the meta, I doubt. But I think people will try it, because people were already starting to get excited, starting to figure it out. And this is like, go on, do it.
This is the nudge, right?
Be encouraged. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I'm excited for GSC. I think it's going to be a good time for them. I think there's a couple of units that could have been more expensive, not less expensive. And there's units in there. There's units in there I'd have been like, I would totally accept a nerf that have been buffed. So I think that's an interesting play. And we'll see how that all comes out. People love it when GSC are good. So
I don't know that's what I've said previously, Tom.
Let's move it along to another sneaky army. It's the Grey Knights. Chris, take us through it.
So many changes, man. As Tom mentioned earlier, the whole idea of 5 versus 10. So the Terminator squad is now not 210 points for 5, it's 200. But you're still paying 420 for the 10, because obviously we're seeing a lot of big bricks of 10 Terminators and Paladins. And they've done the same thing for the Paladins. It's gone down from 225 to 215 if you're taking 5. But if you're taking 10, it's still 450. Purgation squad, obviously they took that indirect nerf, which meant that you couldn't indirect fire their flamers anymore. So now they've gone down to 120 points.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean,
doesn't really compensate them having their whole gimmick taken away, does it?
No, yeah. In an MSU world, like, you can take the flamers, and in MSU builds, you probably would see flamers anyway. So that saves you 10 points. What can you do with that 10 points? Sweet fuck all. Maybe you could take Inescapable Wrath on something which is like a standard filler if you've got some spare points left over. I think obviously their points haven't changed in reality, so they've kind of stayed the same. So in theory, that's a positive. If you take something like the French WTC list, which was 10 Terminators with Drago, 5 Terminators with a Librarian, another Librarian, triple Strike, and triple Dread Knight. What you can now do by having those 5 Terminators that have gone down 10 points, you could turn that third Strike squad into like an Interceptor squad for the Fire and Fade. So that's a very minor change that I would have liked in like the list. So that's quite nice. But that's very specific to that build. I think if this will be an interesting one to see if it happens, or to discuss within our team anyway. But as we'll see later, Thousand Suns have been hit hard. And the reason a lot of Grey Knight players felt they had to take Librarians was because of the Thousand Suns matchup. If you're no longer worried about the Thousand Sun matchup because you're assuming you're very, very rarely going to see them, That then does free up a bit of design space to not take librarians. Maybe you can now take the triple brick unit and take, instead of the triple brick unit or list, 2 librarians and 1 unit strikes. You could now take 3 units of strikes. And suddenly the main weakness of the list, scoring points in secondaries, is actually now in a much better place without the librarians blowing themselves up and that sort of thing. So I think, that is an element. But as I mentioned earlier, I do think we might well actually see this overall data set being a drop for them simply because of the change to the secret missions.
I think you might be right. I think Pariah in general has just made life so much harder for Grey Knights, hasn't it?
Like, we don't score our secondary cards as well anymore. Trust me. The amount of time I scored 27 points on secondaries. That was shit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that happens more often than I would like to admit. And now the fact that you've lost that reliable get back into the game, you can't put stuff out there in the open on primary because you do just die to it. And so you do have to play that catch-up game. It's just how the army plays, and they're going to struggle a bit now if they can't get that extra 5-10 points for their normal primary on top at the end. So I think that will be a bit of a hit. It'd be very interesting to see how... I don't think Grey Knight builds are really going to change. I think we're still seeing lots of Dread Knights. We're going to carry on. We're going to still see the Mass Terminator builds. We're still going to see half and halves. We're still going to see the same builds. I just think maybe certain builds, like the Dread Knight build, will do just as well in theory because that doesn't rely on secret mission as much. But I think the more janky builds will struggle.
I was hoping that they'd dip in a little bit with some of the Imperial Agent stuff, feeling justifiable to squeeze in with the points drops, but it's not really looking like it, is it?
No.
It just makes it a bit
it's not a particularly exciting one.
Yeah. It's not one that you look at and go, oh yeah.
You've got to work hard.
This is energizing.
Yes.
No, it's not, Tom.
This is not energizing.
This is not inspired.
Energizing, not energizing. Anyway, I could do that a while, but I'm not going to because I'm a professional. Imperial Agent stays the same.
No, it doesn't.
Oh no, the Subductors got more expensive. 5
or 10 points, and they're still pretty good because they're a little tanky unit. But
that's the little forward deploy 4-up in one guys, right?
Yeah, with the little shields that are here that Alex maybe paint for LGT.
That's just a good unit, by the way. Oh, Oliver Matthews in the chat, by the way, said likely to be a brief time for GSC either way, given the ambush rework in a couple months. Yeah, that's intriguing. I think most GSC players would say they've not loved recursion as a bedrock of GSC this edition. Really,
it's not rewarding, is it?
It's never sat in a great place. I've actually finally made peace with it. I think there are ways to build the current book where you make peace with it because you're like, okay, the way this plays is I'm throwing waves of 4 or 5 units out every turn. I accept I'm getting a couple of those back.
Yeah,
and I build around that basis, and then sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse, and you can smooth it out. But I'd be interested to see what their fixes are, whether it's going to like tokens or, sort of just having 1 or 2 times in a game it's guaranteed, or I don't know.
Because the index kind of correction of that was battle line was more likely.
Yeah, they made battle line more likely. I mean, at the moment it's just so swingy, and it wins games on its own sometimes, but equally sometimes you just have to play without the rule. And it's a very, very difficult one to model. I've decided in teams I love it because it means opponents do not know what you're going to do and what is going to happen.
I do not like it.
And that is a very powerful tool. It's a bit like Angron, right? Once you make peace with it, you're like, actually, this just means for my opponent, this game could get so out of hand in my favour or vice versa. I think it's quite nice to have that scary unknown variable hanging over it personally. But so it's taken me. Well, when did that book even come out? It's been a long time, and I've only just started
6
playing
months?
it.
6 months at least?
I only just got my head around it, so I think if they can find something that works better, I'd be happy for it. Alrighty, Imperial Knights. Look, these get cheaper, except Canis Rex, who goes up.
Oh, poor guy.
Cool.
Poor guy.
It's the big boy knights going down. Canis gets more expensive.
It's not enough though. Like, it's not going to fix them. It's not going to make people go, oh, I'm going to put my Chaos Knights, or I'm going to stop using them as Chaos Knights, and that's a shame.
I don't know what you're really gaining in a Knights list with these changes. Like, it's not
more allies.
Yeah, I guess that is it, right? It's like if you can squeeze another couple of little agents units in, maybe there's some play there. That is the biggest impact for Imperial Knights at the moment is simply the Imperial Agents book. I think that's a very good call. So that's where we're at with them. Leagues of Votann, we discussed this already. Jaegers go to what I think me and the boys were describing as the best case scenario of Jaegers releasing at 90 points. They are now 90 points. They were even cheaper before.
I think that works.
It's fine, isn't it? They're still incredible. They're an auto take. You have to have them. You have to have some infiltrate for Votann.
They were pointed as if they were a 5-man unit. That's the way I saw it.
100%. You've got the 5-10 split here where the 5 Hearthguard costs you 150 now. Hearthguard have been dropping out of lists, partly for the reasons I discussed earlier on. But they are they're quite brittle, right? They're only little 2-wound lads, and they are expensive. And I think 150.5 mans is very reasonable. And you can build that into your sort of idiots in transports plan. But Votann are just balanced and solid and can win and can lose and do what they do, really. That's where they're at. Not a massively exciting slate for them, but I think they'll just be relieved that some of the armies that absolutely shit on them are taking notes. Right, Necrons. This is a tricky one to unpack. Right, we've got drops on the Annihilation Barge, the Catacomb Barge, the Obelisk, the Doomsday Ark.
Not the Obelisk.
I don't even know what the Obelisk is.
That's the Tesseract Vault shut. Or
right,
vice
okay.
versa. It's
the Triarch Stalker, the Triarch Praetorians go down as well.
Yeah.
They're
in the Christmas box.
The Doomsday Ark also got cheaper. That's worth pointing out. And another relevant buff is the Silent King has been given the relevant keywords to synergize with the Obeisance Phalanx.
Oh, yeah. Which was a lot of what people wanted early on. So
yeah.
Interesting to see if that changes.
I'm very curious about it. I don't even know what their rules are, but anything that potentially unlocks a detachment we've not seen, I'm definitely here for.
Yeah.
And then you've got points rises on Hypercrypt stuff.
Yeah, a single Locust Destroyer only. Which I think is really
solo
smart.
guy.
It's so smart.
Mm-hmm. It's only 5 points though.
Yeah, but it's enough.
Yeah, still so cheap. The Monolith 400. How big a rise is that? 40?
I don't know.
350, 360, I think they were. Yeah, around there.
That's quite steep for the Monolith. The Tesseract Vault goes up.
People are running 2 or 3 of them, right? So
death marks go up. So basically, a lot of the ingredients of recent Hypercrypt lists take a hit. I think this, coupled with the secret mission change, definitely hurts Hypercrypt. But it is worth saying the Doomsday Ark has been the recent emergent unit for a lot of these lists, and it's gone down. So that's quite funny. Guess that's what Josh wants to take to his next event, right? No cheap shots. Josh does a great job.
No, he's producing more data to correct them in the next.
Absolutely fantastic. As I say, in general, these balance changes are very, very good. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Have we got any Necron experts in here to tell me what I should think about this?
This is all the stuff that everyone was telling me I needed to get ready for using Necrons. Are now in red, so that tells me they were probably the problems.
Yeah. I think the secret mission change alone really hurts.
Yeah, the secret mission change hurts them, and the fact is that list probably goes up around 100 points, which when you're relying on a few hard-hitting things, but they didn't get a huge amount of stuff, did they?
No.
So now you've lost a unit. That might well have to change in different...
You lose your 3 single Locust Destroyers, essentially.
Yeah.
Which was flexibility, right?
Well, the Monolith is a big thing, right? That going up 40 points knocks a unit out generally. So
Yeah, so interesting times for Hypercrypt. The Necron book has proven very consistent, evolving and changing and adapting to the times.
Yeah.
And I'm confident it will do so again.
I think there'll be some sort of new build. I reckon people will definitely try that one with Silent King, because I remember when it first came out, Siegler was pretty interested in that, but they were like, give us the keyword. I think you're going to get a lot of Necron play. Yeah, as Luke Harris says, looking forward to trying out Phalanx with thing. I think
Luke, let's book that game, mate. I'd love to play into it because I have literally no idea what it does. I could not tell you.
Yeah, I think that'll be something that people will be trying, and it could well turn out to be pretty fucking brutal.
So in that sense, smart changes, because it's
and Scorpex
add a bit of energy to something that we've not seen yet, detachment that we've not seen. I like this with our shifting balance that moves the detachments around, gets people trying to.
Which is what we want. Like it's
got to be for. It's like game patches, isn't it?
Yeah, if they tweak to the point and it just meant we still carry playing the same game for the next 3-4 months, like the game does become quite stale. The missions are quite samey. You need to be wanting to try new rules and new units in order, especially when you're trying to play competitively.
Yeah.
So I think that's really positive.
Yeah. There's certainly nothing so egregious in here that Necrons are in big trouble. I just think the secret mission change is a big thing certainly for Hypercrypt to navigate. And Necrons will just have to wake up and remember that they are actually incredibly good at primary and play it the old-fashioned way instead.
20 warriors, here we go.
They're literally they were one of the primary nightmare armies, and then they'd become I don't want to score primary. I want to jump around and do tricks. But they'll be back at it, so I'm excited. Right, okay, next up. Oh, go on then, John. Tell us about orcs. What's going on?
This is actually something I've not actually properly looked at yet. So this is spicy. So Mega Knobs have been given a nudge back up, kind of back down, because I think with the rules changes and the points increases.
What have they gone up to before, John? Where were they at?
Oh, I'm trying to think what it was.
Was it 40, 45?
It was something like that. It was enough that it meant that the lists all went up sort of 200 points.
Yeah.
So it was a big chunk. And then things like the Morkanaut going down, that's interesting. And Death Dreads, I still don't think people are going to take them. Death Copters, there is something to be said for them, but not for their shooting output, because I did use them on the weekend. And they exist on a table for a short amount of time. Boys and Beast Snagger Boys going down, that makes it quite interesting to me. The biggest change I think for orcs that's interesting is the war boss changes. They've corrected the war boss abilities so they are not dependent on being on the board. So if a war is called, their benefits of getting extra attacks and all that sort of stuff triggers, even though they're on in a transport or in strat reserves, which makes them actually playable again, which was a real shame.
Yeah, I think it's positive, isn't it? I want to point out, look at this, Death Copters.
Yeah.
180 for 6. You
Yeah.
can get yourself the 18 Death Copter base of a Speed War for really not very many points, guys.
And then some Vanguard Space Marines will kill them, Tom.
No, I'm
easily.
intrigued. That's enough that you could have like a real army in front of it and play the whole game. And Mega Knobs were 40, so they've gone down.
It's okay.
I still don't know that they actually needed the Feel No Pain change, to be honest. I think it was harsh. But that's because I played an army that just sliced them into tiny bits anyway. I'm
interested that they've dropped the Tank Busters down.
Yes.
Especially now
they'll get new rules, will they, with the new models?
It almost doesn't matter, because they've got things like the Tank Hammer in there, but there's that Breacher Lad with the two fisty things. That's new, so we might find something new entirely for them. So
I think it's nice in as much as I think there's something in these changes for basically every detachment you'd want to run. Like there's something exciting for all the detachments. They're just in that spot, aren't they? Also, they lost all that. They lost all that momentum they'd built up because the nerfs really took people's enthusiasm away. Good night, Paul Bridge. Lovely to have you here. Thanks very much.
Foundation units like the Commandos have gone down. That's nice because when they get the points hikes, you probably lost two units. I think out of my list that I took to Birmingham ITT. It's nice getting some of that back because they didn't need to lose units. They needed some of the survivability to maybe go, but not the units because they were quite elite at that point, especially the Bloody Boys.
The Hunter rig at 135 is chonky for us.
It's just too big.
It's chonky. Yeah, it doesn't work on the board, don't get me wrong, but that's a lot of heft for 135 points. A
transport with some all right shooting.
Yeah.
And some good combat.
Big, beefy, again, because you've seen what we're doing with... Can it only carry the Beast Snaggers? Or can it carry normal boys?
I think it's just Beast Snagger keyword.
Just innocent boys. Oh, that's a shame. Yeah. Okay, because they've got Mr. Run through screens now, right? So it's all changed for the orcs. But that doesn't work.
One here. I've only just recently got one. Who knew? Thanks, Brian. Thanks for Brian for telling me that what I could use it for. I was like, I can't just go through walls.
They are another one. I think that little guy alone actually changes the entire
100%.
I want to go back and play every game of Orcs against Rob Kimpton's Drukhari that I've ever played with that guy in it and see how that goes because it's very, very different. I think
you just count the whole thing, changing, right?
Yeah.
Because
the obvious counter is just gone against
going through
at least one
units didn't mean anything to me when I read it the first time.
Yeah.
For a lot of us, it's weird.
It's huge though. Yeah. So I think Orcs will grow back into their place in the game now, which is cool.
We's never beaten, to quote the Orc bosses, the sages.
Exactly. Right, we're getting there, boys. Not too much further to go.
To address Harley in the chat, he says, I was looking for the Patreon link to 6+++. New channel. Have one, or should I subscribe on YouTube? So we used to have a Patreon very long time ago. but we've transitioned to YouTube membership now.
We have.
So you can obviously just subscribe to the channel, but if you want to become a member, you just have to do the thing on the membership section, join via the YouTube, and then you'll get access to all the things we do, like we've got a TTS league we're about to start, which you need to be a member for, painting competition, as well as early access or members only videos and all that sort of thing. So if you're interested in that, then hit the join button. And thanks for giving us an opportunity to self-promote. Cheers.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, Harley. Thank you. You're the best Harley I know.
Yeah.
And so if you have any trouble seeing it, sometimes people struggle. Different browsers don't like finding the membership tab on the YouTube. If you have any issues, there's links to the Discord and stuff in the comments and the description. So just go in there. We can help sort you out if needs be. But yeah, that's the way we've done it. We started doing that this year. It's been great. We've got a lot of members supporting us now. So thank you to all of you. And we'd obviously love to have a few more. You'd be very welcome. Amazing. Oh, thanks for your support tonight, guys. It's been really nice. Obviously, you know how it is. Slate lands. It's a lot of stress. I feel like we've got our act together pretty well for this one. So really nice that you guys are appreciating us as well. Right, John, summarise the whole of the Space Marine changes. Go.
Right. Biologists, because it normally takes an enhancement that makes it obscene with some friends, has gone up because they didn't want to punish just the enhancement having fire discipline on other things. Assault intercessors with jump packs have gone up just for the 5-man units.
I always like to think this is the points cost they were always going to be. They were just like, we'll sell these and then we'll bring these up.
Last slate, they went down a touch.
Yeah.
Which was just weird. And then Ballista's Dread has gone down to 130. I still don't think people are going to take it over a Lancer if they can justify it. Captain of Phobos Armor has gone down to 70, which I still think, unless you're playing a Vanguard list and you want to do uppy downy, it's like not really. Eradicators have gone up to 100 points for 3. Wow. So this is very much getting rid of the fire discipline biologists.
Yeah, they've hit that package, haven't they?
Yeah. And it's understandable. I still think for 200 points, you take 6 of them. It's just more, by the time you build the biologists with the enhancement and them in a repulsor, it's a quarter of your army now. You have to really want it and have to utilize it.
It's another thing where it's like, I know it's good. I just don't think it works on UKTC terrain. So I don't think it deserves it.
It's okay. It was better. I think it did a lot better on WTC terrain, especially when they get to pick the different board sizes. Like if it was a lighter board, you got some really great ankles on it.
There's certainly a big nerf in it. And you notice they've done the thing so that you can take 10 assault instances with jump packs and they're cheaper, but it's the MSU again that they've done.
That was the problem thing.
So I love this where they've just spotted where is the problem? Is the brick the problem? Is the MSU the problem? Whichever way, you just nudge it, but leave a bit of leeway.
Because then a good example in that is every detachment would take 2 or 3 units of 5. Vanguard or some sort of similar sort of detachment might want to uppy downy a 10 to get the value. They shouldn't be punished because of the other detachments. So it's kind of expressing a bit of a cleaner kind of points grade for that, right?
Yeah, totally.
Heavy intercessors have gone down.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God's sake. Why?
They are still more expensive than normal intercessors, and they don't sticky things. Yes, they're a T6 body. I still think you won't see people choose them over the assault intercessors or the normal intercessors.
Yeah.
Still.
Except Ed Watts in a horde for some reason.
And I've designed lists. I've used them. They're great, but there's always something better.
All the storm speeders going down.
Yeah.
Suppressors going down.
The Invader ATV is the cheapest unit in the army now at 60 points.
Oh, so interesting.
You're getting to that point where the 50-point attack bike at the beginning of the edition was a nice little rapid ingress trick. It's feeling like that, but I'm still not convinced. It's still 2 shots with a multi-melter.
Well, he's just cheap screening and just
decent size model as well.
They're not on a base, so they're actually
they're trying to work him in there, man. What do you think of the 125-point Invicta?
No,
I've not seen one of those.
It's my favourite Marine model. I love it.
It is Phobos keyword, so all the things that the Phobos kind of guys have as a synergy, like the repositions and stuff, it does work with it. But why wouldn't you just spend 5 more points and have a Ballistic Dreadnought that can actually shoot stuff? Because the Flamer's all right. It's just there's better options if you want the Flamers, which is a shame. The Outrider ATV's gone down as well. You're still not going to take them or it, but it's nice that it's an option, I guess.
Yeah. And then Van Vet's obviously paying for Blood Angels.
Yeah. Normal Terminators have gone down.
Yes.
Generally. what the interesting one to note is that things like the Deathwing Terminators haven't, to show the difference, because they used to be the same points, but they've got the Watcher in the Dark. So they've actually given a slight difference between the two now. Suppressors down to 75 has got a lot of Blood Angels players curious, because obviously they work because they're jump packs in Angelic Host.
Yeah,
it's another option for the shooting.
It's interesting, isn't it? I think. What did you ask, Chris? Sorry.
What does their gun do?
It's like a 2 damage autocannon, isn't it, John?
Yeah, and it's all right. It's different.
It is okay.
It's longer range than the.
They still have that thing when
pistols.
they hit you and you're -1 to hit. Is that how it works?
There's something like that. They've got a special rule, but it's not enough that you go, oh, I'll take them. They don't do a 3-inch deep strike like Inceptors do, though. That's the biggest challenge. It's like, yes, they're cheaper, similar footprint.
In 9th, they stopped Overwatch, didn't they?
Yeah. Let me have a look at them, just because I'm not sure. The big one here, I don't think it's on this. Oh, it's on this page. Rabute Gilliman's gone down. I still don't think he's worth the same points as the Lion.
Yeah, 285. They're getting there, man. They're going to hit that point.
On a one-on-one, he still gets dunked by the Lion every time. It's very funny to watch.
Fight First will do that.
Yeah. Well, not even that. If it was literally just, if you look at their profiles, he just doesn't. Like, he gets back up again, but then he goes down again. It's as simple as, right?
Yeah, it's interesting.
And I don't think the Terminators are cheap enough now that people are going to bother. But
so there's a point of curiosity here where it's like, at what point do Terminators become the thing, right? Because obviously in Grey Knights they are the done thing, but then basically Terminators in other armies are just not being dabbled in except for Death Shroud for Death Guard.
Yeah,
you're not
or
seeing
Deathwing
them.
Knights because they've got their own
and so
special.
Deathwing Knights, where I don't even regard them as Terminators because they're so
right?
bananas and off on their own. There's going to be a point at which it becomes a done thing, right? They're going to hit a price point where it's... But it feels like the game in general can just pick up Terminators enough that it's not worth that commitment in one place at the moment.
Yeah.
Unless they have a lot of jank or tricks that you can apply to them to get more out of them, you just don't see it.
And they are still movement 5 like Space Marines that are toughness 5, whilst some of the Gravis stuff's toughness 6.
I was actually playing Dawn of War, the old Dawn of War yesterday when my internet was broken. I was like, I've got to play analog games. Oh my god!
No way.
And my orcs were running at some Space Marines, and there was a flash of light and some Terminators appeared. I was like, oh no! And then I just ran all the Terminators over, and I was like, that's so Terminators.
What a Terminator thing to happen.
Couldn't be more Terminator than
so the suppressor special
just getting immediately killed.
In answer to the question from earlier, they if they hit you, you're -1 to hit until their next turn.
That's not nothing.
It's nothing to be sniffed at.
Nothing. It's useful. Yeah, 3 units of those. Three units at -1.
I'd rather kill the units personally.
And obviously, Fire Discipline at 40 points. They've really gone for it.
Yeah. So it's 195 points to the kind of the archetypal Gladius list, which I think's fair.
Does this push people off Gladius, or does Gladius keep being the one?
I think it takes people off Eradicators. So I think Dark Angels players are all looking at Hellblasters and other options immediately, which tells me that it's just a pivot. And that's what these are supposed to do, right? It's to generate you going, what do I need to play instead? What units do I own? If you don't own them, you go and buy them, which is helpful, right, for the company?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Harley. Thank you for becoming a member. We really appreciate
he's a captain.
You.
Captain Harley.
He's a captain. Oh, amazing. Captain Harley. We salute you. Obviously, guys, if you want to sign up and become a member and support us as well, we'd love it. Go on, get involved. Let's do it. Right, okay, that's Space Marines, little old Space Marines. Space Wolves. So, Bjorn gets little points rise. He is incredible.
Yep.
So, that's fair enough. Thunderwolf Cavalry get a little nudge up. Logan Grimnar gets a little nudge up. Then you get some drops on stuff I haven't seen in this.
Hunter Morkai.
Hunter Morkai.
Yeah. Still
Ed Watts' anti-T-Suns tech unit. Long Fangs, Sky Claws. Wolfguard. I mean, this amounts to a little nerf for the old Space Wolves, doesn't it? Because people don't love the units that get in the buffs. Yeah. And there's just a few taps on ones that they're using a lot, and they're already taking a few nudges on like JPIs and other things that they like to use too.
Yeah. And those are the units that, if you were to guess what's going to disappear when they get a book, those ones in green outside of the hands of Morkai feel like they're on borrowed time.
Oh, John, you cynic.
I've just watched it happen.
Yeah.
God, my land speed is in the garage, man.
Yeah, so interesting, isn't it? Yeah, all the Special Marines having an edition in which all their special units are pumped to the gills and then replaced by new models. It's interesting. Pattern.
Yeah, it's
interesting
weird.
pattern. Interesting pattern.
Yeah. Who saw it coming?
Yeah, who could have possibly foreseen? So yeah, I mean, I think Space Wars is still great, to be fair, and I think we've seen Champions of Rust infantry heavy lists that basically only use Bjorn of the lists we've seen in red are still solid. And Wolf Jail was a bit bananas to play into and a bit feel bad. So I think it's good for your sort of mid-tables player or your casual player to have that toned down a bit. I think that's definitely a positive. But they're still very good.
Yeah.
We've almost made it, boys. We've almost
this
made
is
it.
One of my favourite changes.
Right, John, talk us through Tau Empire.
So, with the last slate, they had a real horrible change to one of the detachments. If you're playing the Kroot Hunting Pack, you could only bring back a unit once.
Yep.
As a result, all their units felt way too expensive. If you were using them, you're often doing things like a Kroot Ox Rider, a single one, which was very cheap. It's now not as cheap, but it's still bloody cheap at 40 points.
Oh, yeah.
And Piranhas were being used a lot for things like spotting, if you weren't using stealth suits. And there was one of the battle suits that was consistently 2s or 3s, especially in Retaliation Cadre detachment lists, you would find 3 Riptides were the foundation.
Yeah, 3 Riptides
is a lot less. Yeah. And I think that's fine. And then a lot of the Kroot stuff's just gone down a little bit, which helps because if they're not going to have the recursion, it makes sense to make them cheap enough that you can have more of them to start with.
Yeah. Yeah, and your boy Farsight getting cheaper is cool for Ret Cadre, and especially Kroot Rampages and Riders getting cheaper. There's a lot of wounds on those things.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of wounds.
Yes.
They're not easy to shift.
No.
And Rampages have the Impact Mortals. They're a genuine countercharge unit that Tau do not otherwise have. Again, they are eventually they're going to hit a point where you consider a unit or two. I think especially the Rampage. The other Kroot trash, I think if you're not playing the Kroot detachment, you probably don't care as much. But Rampages genuinely give you something you don't otherwise have.
Yeah.
But I mean, Tower solid, can perform, can place high.
Vespids haven't changed, so that's nice.
They've been treated pretty cautiously. They got the Pure Tide Engrin chip. I believe that gets you 4-up CP regen when you use strats on the unit. So it's not what they were hoping for.
Yeah.
I think Tau players were envisioning like free strat use or reduced strat cost or whatever, and that would have been much more powerful. But the 4-up regen is nice. It doesn't.
Yeah.
But they're another army that wins by basically not really taking a nerf, right? It's only, I think the Riptide rise is 10.
Yeah.
Piranha change is mild as well.
And in theory, you switch something else out and keep the 3 Riptides in.
Maybe squeezing a unit out, but Tau have the assets on the board. They have a good width of assets. So they look kind of fine to me. Doesn't change things massively for them, but they're solid. They're still solid. Uh-oh.
It's a lot of red.
Sweet Jesus Christ. Right, okay. God, they even got the Forge Fiend. Forge Fiend got a rise. The Vortex Beast goes back up again. Magnus goes up. Infernal Master goes up. He was 90 points a little while ago. He's 105 now. This Sorcerer goes back up after getting a drop last time. Exalted Sorcerer up. Arrowman, 150 for Arrowman on disc. Blimey. Even the Sorcerer is up again.
3 Enlightened, Tom.
So the character spam lists are just taking a massive punch. The Enlightened were 45. They were very cheap.
Yeah.
And then you can take your rubrics in 10s, and they actually cost less than they were before, which is interesting. So they've got a little drop there. It's pretty painful for Thousand Suns, who again I think had fallen into that place of meta had moved on a little bit from them.
Yeah.
They were still good, but the game had moved on, and some units like the Exorcist, for example, had their number, and Obliterators had their number. People have worked out if you just shell them a bit, they don't like that. And now if they get shelled a bit, they're losing Cabal, of which they have even less. So quite painful, I think, for Thousand Suns, who already had the indirect nerf. Secret Mission nerf hurts them as well. They're a big Secret Mission abuser. So yeah, I don't know about Thousand Suns. I think this is quite a tough one to take. I don't know what you boys think.
It's a shame.
It's a shame. Couldn't have happened to a nicer Legion.
Yeah.
It feels like they're just shelving them for their book to drop.
Yeah.
Well, they've been touched in various ways over the last haven't they, really? Probably they've tried like these subtle little switcheroonies, and you still keep seeing Thousand Suns players work out a way to
Yeah.
live in fear of God.
It's been one of the strongest indexes of the edition, hasn't it?
Yeah, like
It's outlasted Eldar. It's outlasted all those other initial front runners.
yeah, you go to a teams event still, and everyone's like, "Oh, we need to have a plan for Thousand Suns because if we play into a good team with a good Thousand Suns player, that causes an issue."
Yeah.
And they've just gone, "Wow, maybe all the little tweaks and changes, maybe we'll just go bam, sledgehammer, and see what that does." So, curious to see how many points their army's gone up. Well, I guess it's 100, 150 or something, maybe. I genuinely don't know.
Seems to be the pattern, right?
Yeah, so I imagine that could be it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's painful. We'll have to see how they weather it. All right, guys, we're getting to the raggedy end here. So thank you very much for bearing with us. Please do hit like and subscribe. Please do leave us a comment. Let us know what your army is dealing with off the back of the slate. And obviously, if you want to sign up to become a member or drop us a little super chat to say thank you for the evening's work, we would really appreciate it. Get into Tyranids now.
Time to use our expertise here, boys.
We've got a big Tyranids fan base and we won't let them down. Carnifexes go down, but Old One Eye goes up. So that's a bit of a null change.
Invasion fleet took them together, right? So it's just kind
exactly. The solitary Pyrovore goes up in line with this kind of we're targeting all the little cheap scoring unit. Yeah. The Lictor goes up, but it's still incredible value.
It's just so good for his points
because he just wins a duel with an equivalent type unit in the midboard from the get go, and he's just great. Von Ryan's Leapers go down, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think that's quite interesting.
They're a solid unit. The Winged Hive Tyrant goes down, which makes you wonder what the hell he was before, because he's 200 after a buff, which is still so spenny. Yeah. It's a pretty light touch of a slate for Nids, isn't it? Really, it's not.
I'm not sure whether it would change anything about their army composition.
I'm outraged on behalf of people that are just getting ready to play the new bit of Space Marine 2 that the Hierophant isn't cheaper.
Yeah,
it's just outrageous.
I think the only unit getting a buff in here is of interest is Von Ryan's Leapers, right? They definitely have some play. I think they are.
Yeah.
They are very reasonable. It's forward deploying fight first. Yeah. It's got its place. Yeah. Definitely cheaper. I guess that helps Vanguard out, which is one of the more niche ones that's a bit technical.
How much did they go down? I feel like Von Ryan Leapers.
I think it's 5.
Yeah. So I think they're going to send which like the reality is like what's that
especially if the Lictor's gone up and you are running Lictors anyway.
Yeah, it just doesn't change anything in list, I don't think. So I don't feel like Nids players.
So Nids in general are strong, have their game, they do what they do. Played well, they are one of the better armies in the game, but there's just they've got a big player base, and I think it's not always easy to get the absolute most out of them because it's not like a raw damage army in that sense. But I think they'll be pretty happy because a lot of the armies that prey on them have taken hits, and they're there ready to go. But again, this is not an inspiring slate for the old Tyranids, is it?
But sometimes if people are getting dunked down, you don't need to raise up anyone that needed maybe a little bit of a nudge because all you're doing is just shifting places, right?
Yeah, it's minor. I think when you're in an army with as much sort of width and depth as Nids, not taking any serious hits is good, and you've got plenty of flex for adjusting to whatever meta now presents itself. Although I feel with our meta at the moment, it's just so wide that it's like who knows what you're building for.
Brainseller, who's always been on the Von Ryan Leaper meta, and finally you can really abuse those sweet 18 forward deployed lads. So I hope you enjoy that, man.
That's a real. That is a real don't go second moment, isn't it? The old 18 Von Ryans. Yeah, Tyranids love eating scourges. I hate them. All right.
Speaking of hate,
it's the World Eaters. Chris, you're our World Eaters, mate.
I'm the World Eaters main here. I was kind of like flicking through, and then I was like, those are 3 of the main things that you see. Obviously, anger, and you see in pretty much every list. Spawn are just so good with their 4 up, feel no pain. And then Master of Execution, who took the nerf last time.
Bonkers to have 110 points for a little character like that.
Yeah, like he took the nerf last time with his enhancement and weapon for the damage. Yeah. And now it's just like, and by the way, we're going to increase you. And I didn't realise World Eaters was such an issue that that they needed these points changes. Like this is because they don't have much cheap stuff, right? So this
No.
quite easily could
Those
drop
lists
a
are so
unit.
lean.
Yeah, like this could quite easily drop a unit, and it just feels a bit harsh, really. Like they weren't. No, I don't think anyone was really complaining about World Eaters.
No.
So I don't understand why they've. The only thing I can think is they've gone for like an internal balance attempt here to try and encourage people to take different units. But if people
what are they trying to encourage? It's like, what is like? Okay, I'll run Predator spam now, and
yeah. So I'm bringing my Terminators.
Yeah,
I suddenly feel the need to take my Terminators. They're going to be led by the. Oh wait, my Terminator Lord I don't have. Great, cool.
Yeah, it feels harsh.
I don't
feel harsh. They've been hanging in there and competing.
It felt like they're in a good place.
But they've not been oppressive.
No. But they did get the Demon Prince with wings going down a touch.
Oh,
but...
we've got an interesting comment from Cameron Archibald who says, is it because all the -1 damage got hit? And it did, to be fair, with Deathwing Knights and Bulgrin and other things. Like a bunch of the units that typically World Eaters bounce off took nerfs. So maybe there is a big brain player here that goes, "Oh, they're going to be too good." But I just don't think World Eaters are going to be too good in the current field, really. So it does feel sad, but you should still play them anyway, Chris. Go on.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Every time I go into my painting room, I do look at them. I'm like,
and in late 2025, Lee Church will be playing them with you.
Absolutely.
Shout out to John C, who goes, "Hey team, bah, looks like the end." Don't worry, John. As soon as the video stops, you can watch it again from the start. Don't you worry about it. Yeah, rewind when we get to the end. No problem at all. Alrighty, guys, we're about to get to the death here. Thanks again for supporting us. We massively appreciate it. That is the Dataslate. It's not the biggest we've ever had, but it's certainly shaken a few things up. A few winners, a few losers. We'll be digging our teeth into it over the next few weeks. We'll keep producing faction-specific content for you guys to help you make sense of it and think about the core rules changes, what they mean for you in your games as well. And obviously, please do continue to support us. Hit like, subscribe, leave comments, all those good things. Sign up as a member. We love you all to bits. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.